Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. As I said, if you can hear me, you can just raise your hand so that I can know that I am audible and that you can all hear my voice. Okay, thank you, Seth, for the confirmation. So I want to thank LVI, that is Linda Vijana Initiative, for this platform that they have given me to come tonight and to discuss on attachment and attachment styles. And I always say that I look at such opportunities as learning opportunities, because it's information I have and I share with you, and is information another person has and they share it with us. So I hope that at the end of my presentation, we're going to be able to have questions, and we are going to also interact with one another. So I am grateful to be here this evening. As I said, I am Grace, and I really love mentoring, especially the youth. I love impacting people's lives. Yeah. And I thank God for that gift He has given me. So today we're talking about attachments. Well, okay, the topic is attachment styles, but I felt like it would be good if we had a little background of what attachment is before we even delve into the attachment styles. And the terminology attachment, we can say it derives from the attachment theory, which is the scientific literature that categorizes how we form emotional attachments to our primary caregivers to ensure our safety and survival. So basically, attachment is an emotional bond with another person or with others. And the earliest form of bond, of a bond, is between a child and their primary caregiver. I say their primary caregiver because some children grow up without their parents, or without their mother figure, or without their father figure, or without both parents. And so hence the word caregiver. So the earliest form of bond that a child learns is the bond between that child and the caregiver. And this bond is a very significant bond because it's the first bond that a child has, and it is the bond that the child has while they're growing up. So it's significant to the child because it shapes how the child will come to relate with others in future. And most of the time, how our caregivers bonded with us when we were children or at a younger stage is most likely how we are going to bond with others. So in simpler terms is what we received from our caregivers is most likely what others are going to get from us. Like that is the way we were socialized. It's a way of socialization. And then the bond between the child and the caregiver also influences their interpersonal relationships in later in lives, and how the caregiver interacts with the child affects the kind of attachment style that this child comes to adopt in future. And so in simple terminology, in simple words, attachment is the emotional bond that we have with other people and the people around us and our surroundings. So that is what attachment is. And the people who shape this attachment is our primary caregivers, because they are the first people whom we bond with as children. And so we'll now talk about attachment styles. And just look at the different types of attachment styles and see what each of them characterizes. So I'll begin by saying, as human beings cannot stay in isolation. So we need to interact with other people. And so that that's why it's usually very important to know what kind of attachment styles do we have, how are we relating with other people, and so on, because we cannot live in isolation. And so attachment styles, it's simply how we relate with others. It is the boundaries that we create, and even it is the parenting styles that we come to adopt later in future. And it also shows us how we handle conflict, like our conflict management mechanism. It's really fueled by our attachment styles. And so there are 4 major types of attachment styles. These are secure attachment. We have avoidant, which is unhealthy. We have anxious, and we have disorganized. So I will let you know that avoidant, anxious, and disorganized, these are very unhealthy attachment styles. Secure is what is good out of these 4 attachment styles. So as I earlier mentioned, parenting styles and behavior, they play a role in defining a child's attachment style. Other things that can define a child's or let's even say a grown-up, because the child now later grows up and becomes an adult. Another thing that can inform our attachment styles is early separation from a parent or a caregiver, troubled childhood, including physical or sexual abuse, also instances of neglect or mistreatment, and caregivers who ridicule them or become annoyed when they were in distress. So remember, the caregiver really plays a role in the kind of attachment style that this child is going to adopt and they are going to have later in life. So the first attachment style we are going to look at is secure attachment style. Now, secure attachment style, this is what we should all be striving for. I mean, this is what we should all be, you know. This is a very healthy type of attachment style. And here, the caregiver was very sensitive to the needs of the child and responded in a positive way. The people who have secure attachment styles, they have a positive view of themselves, and they also have a positive view of others. And so, as I told you, unlike avoidant, anxious, and disorganized, secure attachment style is a positive attachment style, while avoidant, anxious, and disorganized are very unhealthy and they are very negative. Another thing about secure attachment styles is that the people who have secure attachment style, they seek healthy relationships with others because themselves are healthy. And I can confidently say here that what you are is truly what you attract or what you reflect. So a person who is secure will likely be able to attract a fellow person who is also secure. So they form a very healthy relationships. They love having healthy relationships, balanced and trusting. So these are people who have healthy relationships. Their relationships are balanced. They're not too clingy. They're not too distant, but the relationship is very balanced with other people. They trust people. And then they have a way of relating with others through trusting. They also feel safe. They like feeling safe. They like feeling understood. And they like to feel valued in relationships. They're also comfortable with emotional closeness. but at the same time, they are comfortable with independence. So they don't need to be in a relationship to feel validation. They are okay, whether they're in a relationship or not, they are fine. Whether people love them or not, for them, they are okay because they are healthy, because they have a high self-esteem. And these are children who have felt a sense of protection from caregivers, that their caregivers protected them and their caregivers provided a very safe place for them as they were growing up. So they grew up in a safe environment. So that is a secure attachment style. This is a person who strives for healthy relationships. This is a person who is balanced. This is a person who knows how to trust others. This is a person who also trusts themselves. And this is a person who doesn't need they don't need external parties to come and validate them because they have already validated themselves. And as I said, secure attachment is what we should all be striving to be, because this is a healthy form of attachment style. Then we have avoidant attachment style. So basically, when it comes to avoidant attachment, the kids who end up inheriting this type of attachment style, they did not receive any response to their needs or distress. Like their caregivers did not respond towards their needs or their distress. And it develops as a result of emotional rejection. So it means they did not receive emotional support or emotional safety. Like their emotions were not taken care of by their caregivers. And also they experienced neglect from their primary caregivers, or their caregivers were emotionally unavailable. So as I said in the beginning, avoidant attachment style is a negative, and it's a very unhealthy attachment style. These are people who they have discomfort with emotional intimacy, and they have a strong desire for independence. They also have difficulty in trusting others because it began with their caregivers. They could not trust their caregivers. So in response, they cannot trust other people, and they avoid getting very close with others. So these are the kind of people, when you are in a relationship with them and they see that you are getting close to them, these are the kind of people who will pull away. These are the people who will ghost you. These are the kind of people who will cancel plans. These are the kind of people who will keep quiet. They will ignore your messages. So when they sense that you are now getting into their space, or you are getting closer to their inner space, they tend to pull away. So I feel like I'll be a bit vulnerable here with using my personal experience. I have dated a person who has avoidant attachment style. And these are people, like I remember one time in our relationship, he could not deal with the issues that were in our relationship. And the best thing he saw to do was to ghost. Like he just went quiet. No picking phone calls, no replying to messages, nothing. So that's how they respond when they are put on the spotlight, or when they feel like now you're getting close, or when they feel like you are now poking into their lives. And then they don't so emotionally they're emotionally unavailable, and they struggle to emotionally invest in relationships. Remember, the key word here is emotional, because they did not receive this emotional because the emotions were not taken care of by their caregivers, so they don't know how to reciprocate. They don't know how now to emotionally attach to other people. And they also love being independent physically and emotionally, and they also love to depend on themselves. They avoid and withdraw. So avoidance and withdrawal becomes their strategy in order to protect themselves from experiencing more pain and abandonment. And then also, they don't like conflict solving. As I told you, this guy did not like anytime we could sit down and I show him this is what is happening, these are the wrongs that are happening. He never liked that. He avoided conflict resolution or conflict solving. And then they see others as clingy, like when you become emotionally attached to them, they see you as a person who clings on to them. And they also, these are the kind of people who will also twist, like they'll gaslight you because they don't like you pointing fingers at them. So there's a way they twist mistake to look like it's your mistake. So avoidant attachment style. So they avoid, things that will make them uncomfortable. They avoid things that will, involve their emotions and all. So we also have what we call the anxious or insecure attachment style. Now, this is also a negative attachment style. It's unhealthy, and this is where the interaction between the child and the caregiver was inconsistent or intrusive or overwhelming. And here is their inconsistency. There's no consistent response they did not receive consistent response to their needs by their parents or caregivers. So meaning their parents or their caregiver did not have a consistent response towards the needs of this child. And then they are very clingy and they hold on so much, and they're very insecure. These people are very insecure because they were used to they don't know consistency. So they're very insecure. And then they fear abandonment. They don't like to be abandoned. They codepend. They really depend on others. And they really try to avoid breakups. So these are the kind of people who are in relationships. And because they are anxious and because they are insecure, they really hold on to their relationship no matter what. So they'll hold on to their marriage. They will hold on to that thing because they really fear to be abandoned. They really fear to be left. And then they need constant reassurance. They keep asking their partner, do you love me? Do you like me? Will you marry me? So those are the kind of questions. If you are in a relationship with an anxious or insecure person, they'll keep on asking you questions so that you can validate them, so that they can feel validated, so that they can feel secure. And then they also have a strong desire for intimacy combined with the doubts and fear. So sometimes these are the kind of people who they can be in a good relationship. The partner could be having good intentions, but because of their anxiety, because of their insecurity, they will have a lot of doubts towards this good relationship. So you find they're anxious, their anxiety and their insecure can fuel them to be the very same people to break a very good relationship or to break a very good union. And then they have as I said, they have a low self-esteem, and they're very sensitive to changes in how others speak or behave. because remember, their caregiver was not consistent. And they easily tolerate unhealthy and toxic relationships. As I earlier said, they fear abandonment. They fear being alone. They always like to have someone around them to assure them that they are good, to assure them that they are loved, to assure them that they are worthy, just to have someone who is validating them, someone who is just telling them the words they want to hear. And then also the parent, so I want to look at the parent with anxious attachment is unpredictable in how they meet the child's needs. Sometimes they meet them positively, sometimes they meet them negatively, so they are very unpredictable. And then sometimes they, as caregivers, they also feel overwhelmed. And anxious attachment style develops as a result of chaotic and unpredictable environments. And sometimes they pay attention, other times they are pushed away because of the inconsistency. And then they tend, as I said earlier, they tend to sabotage relationships with questions and concerns about small details, instead of enjoying the moment. They seek constant validation, instead of being like at a state of healthy, at a state of trust, but they just keep on asking questions. They have problems regulating and controlling negative emotions. So anxious and insecure attachment style, these people have a very hard, they have a problem in regulating or controlling their negative emotions. So their negative emotions in them tend to overpower them. As I said, as I said, they have lots of doubt, they have lots of fear, they are anxious, they are insecure, so they are really filled with a lot of negative emotions, and they are very sensitive to their partner's behavior. So this is the kind of person who, when the partner does not call them, they are very anxious, they are very insecure, they are crying all over the place, because so any slight change in their partner's behavior, they can really start overthinking. They can really start drawing conclusions through overthinking. So these are people who really overthink a lot. So then we go to disorganized attachment style. So we can say this is anxious and avoidance, like has been put together. Again, this is an unhealthy attachment style, and it's negative. And this is where the parents exhibited fearful behaviors towards the child. This is where there was poor communication between the caregiver and the child. And most of the people who adopt this disorganized attachment style, either they went through a traumatic event, or they went through abuse, or they were maltreated. So you can just look very closely on children who have gone through abuse or maltreatment or traumatic events in their lives. They tend to adopt this disorganized attachment style. And so here, caregivers practice unusual caregiving behaviors that may be fearful or abusive. So it's also known as fearful avoidance, because it's usually very hard to predict the behaviors of people who have this disorganized attachment style. It's very hard to predict their behavior. From intense fear, they have a lot of intense fear as a result of childhood trauma or neglect or abuse. So most likely these children experienced trauma, they were neglected or they were abused. Now, because of the trauma, the neglect or the abuse, they develop a very intense fear, like they really live in fear. They fear the people around them, they fear the things around them, and they do not sometimes, and then they are very how can I put it? They are very unpredictable because there are times that they feel like they don't deserve love, but there are times that they long for that closeness in a relationship. So they're very unpredictable. So the caregivers most likely have experienced depression caused by isolation, lack of social support, and so they withdrew from their caregiving role. And then they have poor emotional regulation. As I said earlier, sometimes they want to be loved, sometimes they don't want to be loved. Then they are very suspicious of others' intentions. So they look at you with a lot of, they look at other people with a lot of suspicion because of the abuse that they have gone through or the neglect. They have conflicting emotions, as I earlier also said. They can be desiring something, and at the same time, they're actually afraid of that which they are desiring. They struggle to be vulnerable. And then they also really struggle to regulate their emotions. They have a lot of anxiety or fear in relationships because remember, their initial relationships with their caregivers was inconsistent, and their caregivers they had fearful behaviors because of the inconsistency. They have very they have they are very anxious or they fear relationships with other people. They're afraid of being rejected or abandoned, and they pull away or break a relationship the moment they are getting close, like unpredictable. These are the kind of people who tend to have multiple sexual partners, and they can also be the ones to sabotage their relationships or look for a way to end it. So another thing about disorganized attachment style, maybe I can add on to that, it's characterized by lack of clear, coherent strategies for dealing with attachment relationships. So they do not know how to deal with attachment relationships, and it develops as a response to inconsistent, frightening, or traumatic caregiving during early childhood. Individuals with this style may exhibit behaviors that are contradictory or confusing, such as seeking, as I said earlier, they can seek to be close to you, and then they can also be the same people to push you away, or they display anxiety and fear in relationships. So they have inconsistent behavior, as we have looked at that a lot. They have difficulty in trusting others. There's often a deep-stated mistrust or fear that can make forming and maintaining stable relationships challenges. This trusting others is a result of the traumatic event they went through. Could also be as a result of the neglect they went through. It can also be a result of the abuse they experienced. Then they also have emotional turbulences. They have difficulty in emotional regulation, leading to unpredictable reactions and heightened by emotional responses. They have a lot of unresolved trauma. This attachment style is often linked to unresolved trauma or abuse in childhood, which can manifest in relationship patterns in adulthood. So that is about disorganized attachment styles. And so the question we would all ask ourselves, or especially as caregivers or young people, is, can I be able to change my attachment style? And you see, the goal, as I said when I was talking about secure attachment style, that is what we should all be striving for. That is what we should all be secure, like form a secure attachment style. And the goal is to be secure as an individual, so that you can also be able to have healthy relationships with others. And attachment styles are not set on stone. As I said, as adults, maybe we've realized we have a certain attachment style, but we cannot really blame ourselves 100%, because remember, this attachment style was a result of our upbringing, was a result of our bond, our emotional bond with our caregivers. So it is how our caregivers how they parented us that has informed the kind of attachment style that we have. And so it can also, you can change your attachment style naturally. So for example, if I'm anxious or avoidant, person with a person with avoidant or anxious attachment style engages with a secure person, a person with a secure attachment style. You see now through the interaction, the one who is anxious, the one who has the avoidant attachment style, can slowly be influenced by the person who has a secure attachment style. And so the change can happen through interactions. But also it can be good to practice, maybe like keep an emotional journal where you can be able to record your recurrent emotions. And like you can be able to record your recurrent emotions, you can be able to record the feelings you have. And then now this can help you to identify the patterns. And then this now can help you to be able to make an informed decision that I am anxious, attached. My attachment style is anxiety through the records I have been keeping. And now I desire to move it to become a secure attachment style. So that is one way you can do about it. Another thing that can inform us to change our attachment styles is thinking of the other person, especially in the aspect of relationships. So remember, when we are in relationships with other people, our attachment style really plays a role on how we will relate with the other person. So if you're an avoidant or you're an anxious person, you see now the other person is going to be affected, because if you're an avoidant, it means it can reach a point you can block your partner, you can ghost them, you can pull away. So it's also good to think of the other person and ask yourself, am I being healthy to them? Am I creating a good atmosphere for us to be able to relate with other people? And even as caregivers, because remember, as caregivers, we are the ones who inform the attachment style that these children are going to inherit, or these children are going to grow up with. So as caregivers, it is good for us, it's good for caregivers to be emotionally present, so that their children can develop emotional awareness and regulation. So if the caregiver is emotionally present, healthy, positive way, so this can help, or this can lead to the children to develop emotional awareness and regulation. As caregivers, we should also be at a point where we create safe environments, where there's stability and nurturing environment, so that the children can feel secure, the children can feel valued, and this now contributes towards positive self-esteem and secure attachment. So it's very important for our children to feel secure. It's very important for our children to feel valued, and it's very important. So this creates the children to develop a positive self-esteem. And also as caregivers, we can introduce effective communication between child and caregiver. You know, where the children creating an environment where the children can express their feelings, their children can express their fears, the children can express themselves, you know, freely without feeling judged, you know, without feeling condemned. So this way, this way the caregiver can know how the child feels, and the caregiver can work towards helping the child to even feel more secure. And then I'll finish by saying therapy. Therapy offers a powerful tool in this process, because it creates a safe space to process the childhood memories and also the emotions. But in order to change their attachment style, one key important thing is that the person must be willing to take a journey through their past, to take a journey through the past traumatic events that happened in their lives, to take a journey through how they were parented by their caregivers. Yes, so that's all for my presentation today. So maybe with the characteristics that we have discussed, you can just see where you lie, and then now you can be able to see how you can be able to change to be a more secure person. So thank you so much for your time and for listening to me. Wamboi, can one change the attachment style? You said that we should strive to have a secure attachment style. If so, how can one change to have a secure attachment style? So as I earlier said, yes, it's possible to change our attachment style. Yes, we should all strive to be secure human beings, so that we can also attract fellow secure human beings, so that we can have healthy relationships. And maybe I'll just go quickly through what I had said about changing our attachment style. The first thing would be good to keep an emotional journal, so that you can be able to jot down your recurrent emotions, and so that you can see what are those emotions that are really recurrent, and what kind of attachment style is that. And then you can also, so the best thing is to seek therapy, you know, is to talk to a therapist, because remember, our attachment styles can also be informed by events that happened in our childhood. And so this way, the therapy will be able to guide you on how to change the attachment. Like, they'll be able to see the root cause of the specific attachment style you have, and they'll be able to help you and guide you to unlearn a particular attachment style, and also adapt a certain one. I hope I have answered that one well. Then there's can an avoidant attachment style also be caused by, say, maybe a romantic relationship gone wrong, and one avoids being attached to any other people emotionally, so as to avoid being hurt again. Yes. So this question is, can an avoidant attachment style also be caused by, say, maybe a romantic relationship gone wrong, and one avoids being attached to any other people emotionally, so as to avoid being hurt again, and not necessarily neglect from caregivers? Yes, that is very true. avoidant can be also as a result of past relationships that have gone south, or past relationships that have not worked. You know, have you ever met people who have been so heartbroken that they fear men at the mention of that name? So that, yes, can be one of the reasons or one of the causes of one developing an avoidant attachment style. Because remember, at the we normally avoid that which has hurt us in the past. We normally avoid the path that we once walked and our feet were pricked because of the events, because of the experience. You're afraid of going that path, you know, again. So yeah, that would be true, because there are people who fear relationships. There are people who just fear friendships because of past events. So that can, and if it as a result of a relationship, then it could be good to seek help through therapy and also be able to heal from that relationship so that it doesn't hold you back from enjoying other relationships to come. Can one change? Okay. Yeah. Can one change their attachment style? I think I have exhausted on that one. Then you say that we should strive to have secure attachment style. Okay, I think it's the same question that has been repeated. So I think that's the only question that I have seen. And I think I have answered. So Wamboy can just tell me if they are okay with my answer, if they are satisfied with the answer that I have given. So you can be able to just get a test that you can be able to do. And then you can be able to see your attachment style, or you can even decide to go for an assessment by a therapist or a counselor. And through the assessment, they'll be able to tell you what kind of attachment style you have. So yeah, it is important to know what kind of attachment styles we have. And then if we fall in the category of anxious, avoidant, or disorganized, then we can work towards going to be secure. And then maybe I'll finish by saying, should you find yourself anxious, should you find yourself avoidant, should you find yourself disorganized, please don't blame you, and we cannot judge you, because we have said this was a result of your of how you are taken care of by your caregiver. So don't feel so down. Don't feel down upon yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. And we too cannot even judge you, because we all have our shortcomings. So it's just about having someone else who can guide you towards changing that attachment style to a secure attachment style. And this can be done through therapy. Yeah. Anybody would like to reach me out, I think it would be good. I can just give my number. Then from there, we can be able to start a conversation if you need help in anything. So my number is 0724-907-256. And I am based in Nairobi, but I'm available for my feet to step any part of, the country, Africa. Yeah, my feet are ready to step if it means helping humanity towards a better living and impacting lives. Yeah, so that's what you can find me. I also run a Facebook page. I just started a mentorship Facebook page. It's called Talk to Gracy. And even if you need links, if you would like me to link you with therapists, if you'd like me to link you with counselors, if you'd like to have someone to talk to, you can always get in touch, and I'll be willing and available to help.